right, back with our recurring guest, Andy Behle, with Behind the Bounce. Yeah, what kind of topics did you want to talk about today?
Yeah, well, a new thing came up. I got to dunk with two pro dunkers, both Ukrainian dunkers named. I actually don't know how to say their real names. It goes by Smoove, and then the other guy goes by Miller. But I like looked up their real names. It's like Dimitri and like Vadim. But yeah, they were
Oh
insane
yeah,
to
yeah,
dunk
yeah,
with.
yeah, yeah.
They were. It made me realize the difference between like an amateur and like someone who's been doing it for a long time.
Yeah, what would you say that stark difference was for you when you like noticed right off the bat?
Just the consistency, like bounce wise, Miller, of course, he jumps super duper high. He's 6'4", like 40-inch vertical head at rim every dunk. But Smoove,
He's got
he's
a
like
40?
6'1". He's definitely got minimum 40. But Smoove, on the other
Mm,
hand, he's a 1 foot jumper, and he doesn't necessarily rely on his height. He just is like
he
he
really doesn't.
executes hand speed and finishing to its max. And I'm like in between. Like I have lots of bounce for my height. I can get my head to rim every
Yeah.
now and then, but like the finishing was not always there, and they made me realize that like you need a little bit of both, and you should be able to hit your best dunk on your worst day, pretty much.
I like that. Yeah. I mean, me personally, that's what I noticed when I went to dunk camp. Like, there was a lot of guys with bounce. Like, it was
Yeah,
like borderline, like, I don't, like, I wish they took an average, but I just remember at Utah, man, it just seemed like everyone had like 40 and up. Um, but to your point, the difference between them and the pros, they make their dunks like
yeah.
very, very consistently.
It's
Like, it's
like
just,
anyone can jump high, but not everyone can dunk good, and that's kind of what I was realizing. Like I was jumping high as shit. Like I did a height check maybe 2 inches below the rim, and
oh, I
like
saw that. Yeah, that was
yeah,
crazy.
and like I still like was missing like dunks that I should have hit like first try. Like I hit two or three windmills, but I still like I attempted five, so I missed two out of the five, and I was like, these guys just
Is
aren't
that like
missing.
that's like what maturing in your dunk journey is realizing like it's not all about the bounce.
Mm-mm. It's not all about the bounce.
It's
It's all
def
about the consistency.
yeah, technique, finishing, consistency. Dude, if you did a height, yeah, at that height check, what do you where do you think your vert was at that day?
So the sesh before that was 2 weeks ago, and that was a 10 foot rim. And I honestly got around the same height, like a inch or two below. And then this rim was about 9, 10 maybe. And so I probably was jumping a little
Mm.
bit lower because of just fatigue. I've been lifting heavy lately. But dunk wise, I was dunking a lot better. Like my hand speed felt better. I felt more fresh. I think it was like a 42, 43 type of day. Uh oh.
Mm. Sorry,
Oh,
wait, could you say that again? Kind of
yeah.
like cut out a little bit.
I would say it felt like a 42 or a 43 type of day.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I
I mean, that's
always
pretty good. Yeah, what would you say you're like?
my what?
Yeah, what would you say your baseline is?
Baseline, no matter what, I feel like I'll jump a 40 or 41, and then on a good day, maybe between like a 42 and 44. I feel like I've had a day where I've definitely jumped like a go 45 or 46, but like it doesn't matter unless you test it. So like
Right.
like you can say, "Oh, I feel like I jumped this high on this day," but if you get a vertec, yeah, you never really know until you hit that vertec up. But I
Yeah, that's
guess
fair.
I
Um,
I would guess I jumped a good 42 or 3 that day.
what have you like what in your experience has been like your biggest vertical jump like your vert drop like session to session? And like, what do you think like the average range is in terms of inches? Is it like, have you ever felt like a 6 to 8 to 10 inch drop before? And then also like, do you feel like your sessions usually range within like 4 to 6 inches?
I think it ranges within like, I think no matter what, I'm always going to be jumping a 40 or 41. And then on a good day, so between like 3 inches, really. What really makes like a big difference is like my coordination and my energy. So like it's not even about the bounce most of the
Mm.
time. For me, it's more about like if I feel good. Like I could feel like shit and I could still go jump 40, or I could feel good and I could jump 40, but the good day, I'm going to hit more dunks for sure. So for me, it's not really
Yeah.
about
Oh,
like
okay. Yeah.
a
Yeah.
drop off. I don't ever really think I drop off too much. I think I definitely start to drop off if I think about it. Like I start getting in my head, like, oh, I'm not jumping very high. But it's like, no, like once I warm up and I start jumping,
Yeah.
it kind of goes away. I try not to think about that, and I like don't see my jump sessions as like this one was good, this one was bad. I just see it as like I'm gonna jump today, uh, not get hurt, and I'm gonna go jump next week, and then just keep going off of that. I don't like to think about it if it's bad. I just ignore it, and then I what I do, if anyone is like someone who likes to do trick dunks and you're having a really bad day, just stop doing tricks. Throw the ball as high as you can and jump as high as you can to grab it. You'll realize you're not jumping any lower. You're just not hitting your dunks pretty much.
Mm. Yeah. So it's more of a like yeah, maybe it's more of like a like you're not in like flow state, I guess.
Yeah, sometimes just things don't feel smooth, especially if it's been a minute since you practiced a dunk. Like if I don't
Right.
practice it behind the back every single week, like I'm not going to be close after 2 weeks of rest. So it's all just like tricks are all it's more skill than bounce. I honestly believe the only dunks I feel like you really need bounce for are like the impossible ones, like a bounce dunk, a double east bay. But the other ones, like as long as you can get
Yeah.
like a little bit more than wrist above the rim and you have the right hand speed, I don't see why you can't do it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's yeah. I mean, I think a lot of folks need to hear that, and I think that was something that when I heard on my dunk training, I heard a lot, right? Where there what's a saying like, yeah, if you can hit a two hander, you can get pretty much like majority trick dunks. And I
Yeah,
think that's
if
like
you can hit a back scratcher, I don't see why you couldn't hit a
mm,
windmill. I don't see why you couldn't jump over somebody. And I honestly don't see
right.
why you couldn't do like a pump. It's like the same thing. And it's probably a little bit easier because the way you finish isn't in front of you, it's behind you, so you don't even have to do anything besides like let go of the ball.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, I mean, I think people really don't correlate those. Well, at least like, the people who are just starting their dunk journey or people who are like outside of the dunk world, they don't really correlate a back scratcher with like all those dunks.
Yeah.
And I think that's like really positive for a lot of folks to like really go chase after. It's like, yeah, you don't maybe sure, it would be great to get like a 46-inch vert and 45-inch vert and things like that. Um, but kind of like what you're saying, it's like a lot of folks can actually get away with a lot less. Um, so it
Yeah.
kind
I
of
mean,
opens the
there's
door to like a
perfect
lot of
examples of some of the best dunkers that are under 6 foot who rely mainly on their hand speed. I mean, Dylan Hogan is one. He hit a hide and seek.
yeah,
I had him on a podcast with me and Nick. He literally hit a hide and seek on a 911 rim. And if you look, like his head's not near the net. It's just his hand got over the rim and he had perfect placement with the ball and he put it in. And he's the youngest to ever do it. Another
damn,
person, Dom, he used to low rim way before he even started dunking. He's 5'7". And
right,
although he does have like a 46-inch vert now or 47 or whatever it is, it's not like he's getting his head above the rim on his jumps. Like a 47-inch vert for him is like an 11.4 touch. So an 11.4 touch is probably
yeah,
just high above the rim, right? But then if you're that
yeah,
short, you have to bend over. So by the time you get to the top, you're ending up here. And he's hit it under both. I'm trying to think of one other guy. I mean, Smoove. Smoove is taller. He's 6'1". But if you look at any of his dunks, I don't think I've seen him have like enough height to do an elbow dunk. I think he's always been like in this range, but he's done an over the
Right.
back, behind the back. He's done an under both. He's done a kamikaze off one. He created a kamikaze. He created
Damn.
the kamikaze, and most of those guys
Right.
aren't really relying on their vert, although they can jump high. They're relying on hand-eye coordination. So if you play
Yeah, man. I mean,
basketball,
that's
it's a good way to dunk better.
yeah. Yeah, yeah, no, exactly. I mean, yeah, I think that's I mean, for anybody on their dunk journey, I think like that's really like amazing to hear is that like it's not all genetics. Like it's really like, putting in your what quote unquote 10,000 hours in on your dunk technique. And then going back to what you were saying earlier, I think that's a really good approach to like a jump session. I guess is maybe not necessarily attributing like good and bad to it. It's just like training, and it's just like
Yeah.
it's just hours you're putting in, and you're just getting better and better at your craft, even if it, I don't know, maybe you weren't jumping as high or getting as many finishes as you would like. It's just putting in the reps, putting in the time.
I mean, it's like if you treat every day like it's the day you have to do something, you're just gonna be disappointed all the time.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, today I've got to bench 225. It's like, well, you haven't benched 135 yet. So it's like
Yep.
gradually increase, like gradually work up to it. And like, it's just like strength, it's just like speed, it's just like any other athletic feat. Like, things usually take time and repetition. There's not many things you can do to hit things quick when it comes to dunking. It's almost just like having fun and trying it a lot. And then eventually, as long as you stay healthy, you might end up hitting it.
Yeah. No, no, facts. Um, any other topics you wanted to touch? I think these were pretty good actually. Do you want to touch a little bit more on the jump sesh, or do you want to anything else burning on the mind?
Burning on my mind. I was actually going to make a YouTube video today. I got this little black sheep behind me. I was gonna get a little spotlight,
Nice.
make a little one. I was gonna do one about our jump program, but I was gonna talk about like
Mm,
how do we jump higher. And I was basically just saying like, well, to jump higher, we have to get our body to adapt. And actually, I have it printed out somewhere. I printed it. I don't know if I have it on me. I printed it, but I talked about basically periodization and adaptation. Like, we have to adapt, and so the best way to adapt in jumping is to jump more, the law of specificity. But the thing is we're not like machines, so we can't just jump every single day because we are made to jog around, and so we'll get hurt. And the best way to be able to adapt year round on a, I don't know, monthly, yearly, overtime basis is through periodization. And I just thought that was like, people like, it's really easy to explain in words, but then it's a whole other thing to like actually do it
yeah.
yourself. And it's like, you should definitely find the right people who can help you.
No, 100%. And I think like touching off of that, like I think a lot of folks when it comes to anything that they want to do, they always like a lot of folks they want to kind of like oversimplify and really dumb everything down and find the shortcut. And it's like with most, I feel like with most things in life, like it's usually not necessarily sure. Like there's some themes and things that are really important, but it's usually never like exactly, I guess, like that simple. Because to your point, I think a lot of people are just going to be like, oh, well, I just got to dunk. Okay, but then to your point of what you're saying, well, yeah, but what happens when, or I just got to jump, right? I just got to jump a lot. But then what happens when your body starts breaking down because it's like, oh, I need to jump. Like, what does that mean? Does that mean I jump every day? Does that mean I jump like how many times a week? How many times in a session? Like, there's so many ways you could go about it, and then there's also so many things that could also theoretically go wrong. So I think a lot of folks, yeah, I guess like what are your thoughts? Those are my kind of thoughts. Is that I think people tend to really oversimplify just a lot of goals and big goals that they have.
Yeah. I think
And there's a yeah,
I think the goals, like the way you should explain them should be simple, but like the way that you actually tackle things is really
The
complex.
execution.
Yeah, the execution is like, well, yeah, of course I have to jump more, but how am I going to be able to jump more? Like, I can't jump every single day. Clearly, if I jump every single day, my knees are going to blow up. My back is going to shatter. I won't be able to walk. So it's like, how do I go about this? And
And when
it's
you say jump, you mean like max jump? Because I think people are probably gonna be like, "But I jump every day. I play basketball every day." And you're like, "Oh, okay, that's okay,
I'm
okay.
talking about
That's not the
dunking.
same."
Yeah, we're not talking
Yeah,
about basketball. We're talking about just max intent,
exa-
as high as you
exactly.
can. You cannot do that every single day. I can.
Yeah.
Some people can't even do that more than once a week. They have to like push it.
Yep.
I've worked up to a point where I can do it once or twice a week. But no, I think that's where periodization comes in. It's like what periodization does is it builds you from the most general version of what you want to do into peaking to the most specific thing that you're hoping to become. It's kind of like a book. Like at the very beginning, it's like you get your plot, you get your like characters, you build your base of the story. Then you're working hard. Then you're working hard. It's getting more specific, and then you get to the climax where you peak, and then you kind of drop
Yep.
off after you peak, and then stories end. But like, I don't know, what if it's a trilogy? You just keep doing that over and
Yeah.
over again. Periodization is
Yep.
basically going from general to specific to general in a way that has variety and keeps you from plateauing and getting hurt. And yeah, it's basically just fitting training for your needs at that time and place, wherever you're at in your jump journey.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree, and I think it's really important, and it takes and periodization can it can be changing, right? And it can be and it should be adapted to the athlete's needs, their strengths, their weaknesses, like what you're saying, kind of where they're at exactly right now with their specific goals, right? So it factors in like, okay, like do you have like some sort of contest that you have soon, something, or maybe you do want to kind of peak at certain times of the year, um, or just like in general, like kind of what you were saying of, just bring them from general to specific, but also like making sure that there's enough variety in there. Um, and then also making sure that you're addressing like those athletes needs. So yeah, no, I think it's super important, and there's thousands of ways that you could go about it. So it's not necessarily like, oh, there's just like one program that works for everyone all the time. It's like, okay, there's
Oh, it's got to be personalized for sure.
yeah.
Like, and not all cycles are gonna last like the same amount of time. There's like micro, meso. It's like all depends on the person. Like, say
Right.
athlete A is you, and you you are really really strong. You lack maybe some sort of elasticity or speed, and you deal with an Achilles injury. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, well, now we have to build that off of him. But then you're not going to give that to me, athlete B, who has two bulged discs and
Yeah.
is already pretty strong and already has elasticity. Like, so for athlete U, I don't know, we're gonna add sprints, maybe do something more specific, and then we're gonna lay off the calves at the end of the week. Versus me, okay, you're back strong, but you are dealing with injury. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna front load, where we start with your most intense day first, and then we're gonna taper off into just working around the rest of your body so you can jump on Friday. And it's
Yep.
like it's so much easier to just like go based off the athlete because none of us are built the same.
Yeah.
But then when you
Facts.
learn from a lot of people, like then like say athlete B gets the same back injury as this athlete 2 years ago, then you can kind of generalize a little bit. But first you gotta personalize that person's training.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No facts. I think injury history is going to play a really big factor. Probably age as well. Their training age, their like biological age, their training age, and also their goals. Um, and like you were saying, like what type of athlete are they? Do they tend to be? Are they 1 foot jumper? Are they 2 foot jumper? Are they kind of like already more elastic? Or are they pretty like well balanced? Or do they have just like no history of jumping?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think those are all like really big factors. Yeah, there's just so many ways that you can program and periodize someone's training. So yeah, no, that I think it's really valuable. Um, cool. So we're at like what? We're
Good
at like
old
20 minutes
20.
or something.
What is it?
Yeah.
Oh, another thing. I think while we do the podcast, we could always talk about like our jump program itself, like some of
Yeah.
the goals we have with it.
Yeah. I have yeah, we could definitely do that. Yeah, you want to just start in general?
Yeah. So if y'all didn't know, me and Ambrose are kicking off a new jump program called Bounce Academy. The main goal is to be able to train anyone who needs it. We want to do personal online coaching where we do like nutrition, body analysis, basically just what learning everything that I learned, the good and the bad, just so you don't have to go through the same thing. The goal is to get everyone to know that they're just able to dunk. It's not a big, hard thing to do. Um, it can take a lot of ups and downs, but with the right coaching and the right people who are already been through that, it'll definitely take a lot more ups than it does downs to get where you want to get. Yeah.
Yep. Yep, exactly. Yeah, so yeah, picking back off of what Andy was saying, it's going to be full service coaching, so that's going to include yeah, periodized, customized programming for each athlete. It's going to include jump technique analysis and dunk technique analysis
From
from
me.
yeah, from Andy specifically, and a lot of the programming will be done with Andy and I. I think both of us have. We've been training for quite some time. I think Andy's been training at least since what? At least since high school, or maybe even
Yeah,
middle
like
school.
13, 14.
Yeah, and I've been trained. Yeah, I mean, we've been athletes our whole lives. We've been trained by a lot of different coaches through a variety of different sports: basketball, football, track and field. We've also been coached by THP. Um, so John Evans is Isaiah Rivera, and so we just felt like we have a lot that we've learned between the both of us, and that we have like a lot to offer in terms of like nutrition, training, right? Like the good and the bad, like the mistakes that we've made along the way, and then even me, in my 30s, right? Like it's really never too late to dunk. I got my first dunk in my 30s. I only really trained 18 months to get my first dunk, and I like sprained my ankle. So for like 3 months, I couldn't even walk. So I probably got it a little bit sooner, but I think I got it a lot sooner because we know how to train. We know how to train well. We know how to recover. We know how to take care of ourselves. So we just wanted to pass that knowledge down, to the next generation, and even for anyone of any type of age. So yeah, it's going to include, like we said, full service coaching, periodized programming, nutrition. So that's going to be macro analysis, analyzing like, how much you should be eating, what types of food you should be eating, and then as well as having a message board between all of our athletes so they can kind of communicate with each other. Like we really want to also build a community. We think that's like really, really important. And then there's going to be, direct messaging with us, and also one-on-one video calls weekly. We really want it to be a very, very personalized experience. We know there's a lot of coaching programs and coaching services out there, and we feel like we can, have a pretty high quality program just like they do as well, and just have like a really, really personalized touch to it.
Yep. Also, 24-hour messaging between us two and you. So, if you can't make it to the weekly call or something just comes up right on the spot, just text us and we'd be able to get back to you right then and there. Um, you know, I'm always free. I'm always down to talk about dunking. Anyone can call me, or maybe not call. Weekly calls. Anyone can text me, and I'm down to talk about dunk
Yep,
technique, jump technique.
for
Just
sure.
watch how you jump, talk about the penultimate step, all that fascinating stuff that I just like to, I don't know, stare at all day.
Exactly. Cool. Yeah, I think that. Probably covers everything. We'll do some cool overlays and some cool
Yeah.
edits.
Yeah, I'll send you some of the Miller and Smoove stuff. So when we talk about this, their sesh, that'd be cool.
Oh yeah, no, that would
Dude,
be
the under
that.
boat is disgusting. He only tried it once and he hit it once.
Yeah, I like how you sent it to me and it like cut off right before the finish, so it was like a big teaser. I was like, oh,
Yeah, he hit that shit.
yeah,
Uh, he also
that's
tried a bounce
amazing.
dunk, which is on my phone too.
That's nuts.
Yeah, he was able to touch rim and like he missed the ball. But like
Ooh,
honestly, like even though it wasn't like an officially 10-foot rim, he's pretty close on any rim height. I think, dude. He's like I
yeah,
think people like hate that he did that, but people also forget that bro is 6'3". He has like a 40 some like mid 40-inch vertical, and he can like do everything. Like when he does a reverse pump, it's like a Donovan reverse pump. When he does the 360 East Bay, like he's getting like this high above it with his forearm. Like bro
yeah,
can
that's
like dunk it
sick.
and then take it out and then probably dunk it again. Like bro is he's scary. Like I would never want to
Yeah.
jump with him.
How old is he? Do you know?
Like 25, I think, 26.
Oh, okay,
Or
yeah,
maybe he's
yeah.
27 or 8. He's been doing it for a long time. He might even be 30. If you look up like 7 years ago, he's on Dunkademics.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's another quick topic we'll touch on before we get off. Like I think a lot like basically comparison is a thief of joy. I
Mm.
think a lot of people compare themselves to like pro dunkers or someone their height or someone that looks like them when it's like, dude, a lot of these guys have been doing it for a long time, like a long time. Again, like I've only really dedicated going on, closer to 2 years at this point to this. Obviously, I had a lot of years of training, but I'm still super, early on in the process. And I know it's just going to take a matter of time, but like for you, like how long have you been, like how long did you dedicate towards, I guess, how long did you dedicate towards like just dunk training? And then how long have you been like, yeah, had you been like already like lifting and doing athletic things? Because I think people like they should know like the context.
Yeah, so I mean, dunk training itself, I'm 22 now. I graduated high school when I was 18, and I immediately just started. Like, I knew what I wanted to do, and I was,
So like 4 years
yeah,
of specific like working on technique
yeah,
and training for dunking. Okay.
lifting for dunking, jumping for dunking, hand speed drills for dunking.
But then before that, you were lifting already, probably what, four to
Honestly,
five
dude, this
years.
sounds crazy. 13 years old, we were doing
Okay,
power
so five
cleans and
years.
hang cleans
That is
for
crazy.
football. Like big, small Texas school, like we're gonna hang
Yeah,
clean. And I'm not even
that's
gonna
normal in
lie,
Texas.
bro. I was like 140 pounds and I power cleaned probably like 175 back then. And in high school, I was
Yeah.
able to like that's one thing I would never take for granted was Texas football. They just prided themselves in Texas football, and the only thing that you had to do was you had to get super strong, super
Oh
fast,
yeah.
and hit real hard on the field, and you were gonna like that's how you became cool, pretty much.
Yes. No, 100%. Everyone, if you're from Texas, football is religion down here. Yeah, like so you have already been training, you know, so you've
five
been
years
dunk training for
before I
four,
even
yeah,
dunked.
5 years before. Yeah, so it's like you've been training specifically for dunking for 4 years, but you had already been training in the weight room and for athleticism and explosiveness for basically 9 years. And so like I think a lot of people will like, oh my God, like, Andy is crazy, which you are, and which is really dope. But it's like, yeah, Andy's been putting in like close to a decade of work into
And
this.
even prior to that, like I was just doing like law specificity, like but for
Sure.
football, like I played tackle football since 6 years old. Like every single
Right.
year, every single summer,
Right.
AAU, like
Right.
select football. Like I don't think there's ever been a point in my life where I wasn't active.
Right.
Like I don't
Right.
think
So
I
you've
can ever have a point in my life like that now because I just feel like I'm
so
doing nothing without it.
so it's like Andy is a lifetime athlete, number one, have been training in the weight room for close to 10 years. and specifically like working on like dunk technique and yeah, like trick dunks and things like that for 4 years. So it's like, yeah, the resume speaks for itself. It's like, a lot of these dunkers, they've put in the time, and they may not even like call it right the time, like because they had just been maybe dunking since they were a kid, or they have been playing basketball. But a lot of these guys have put in their 10,000 hours or whichever. So it just kind of goes to show that yeah, a lot of it really is hard work. It's not just necessarily genetics and raw talent. It's like, anyone putting in that level of work in is probably going to come out with a decent vertical or be a decent athlete. So I just thought that was interesting, especially, you're talking about Miller, right? Like, oh, he's been on Dunkademics, for like even 7 years ago. That means it's like, how long has he been training, right? How long has like Smoove been? I think Smoove is like my age, right?
Yeah,
He's like
he's
around 33.
30 something. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's like 33. And so it's like, oh, how long has he been training for dunk training? I mean, he's been training probably, decades at least. And so I think that should give a lot of perspective, context, but also like a lot of like hope and optimism for a lot of guys who are trying to get their first dunk. It's like, these guys have put in a lot of time, and, where's your ceiling? You have no idea where your ceiling is. Put in the time, and then you get to find out, which is like super cool. And obviously that's where I'm at on my journey, and that's where you're at in your journey. So I think that's just, I don't know,
Yeah,
really
I think if
cool
you're
perspective to have.
Yeah, so more of the story is just get started because the longer you
Yeah,
wait, the less
facts.
time you got. And yeah, you can even like just doesn't matter where you start, it's all about where you finish. You could start now. You haven't done anything, you're 20 years old. You have the same amount of training as me. By the time you're 33, like who's to say you're not going to be that one dude at the YMCA booming on some like random kids, It's like you could be that guy. It's
Bro,
just
I
a matter
started
of becoming that guy.
exactly. Bro, I started at 31 years old. I started focusing on dunk training at 31. For sure, I had like years of weight room experience and being an athlete and whatever, whatever. But it's like, yeah, I've like it's never too late. And a lot of these guys, you should just see it as inspiring. A lot of these guys are inspiring, and yeah, it's just like, yeah, don't worry about like, oh man, if I had started when I was blah blah blah, who cares? Like what Andy was saying, like just literally, there's no perfect time, right?
Yeah.
And there's no better time than the present to start something. So
And no one can tell you how good you're gonna end up being. Like nobody knows. You
yeah,
know what
yeah,
I
no one
mean?
really knows.
Only way to find out is to find out. You know what I mean?
Fuck
Sounds
around and
stupid,
find.
but yeah. Just like if you want to find out, start training, and you
Yep.
will. Um, who's to say? Like maybe you're only able to achieve a one hander. That's still a pretty big thing. Not a lot of people can dunk. Maybe
Yeah.
you end up being able to East Bay. That's a super cool thing. Either way, dunking is just cool
Well,
and it gives your
I,
training purpose.
no facts. I looked up. Damn, my battery just died. I looked up. I looked up the statistics of like how many. What's the percentage of the population that can dunk? Do you know what it is?
10?
I think no, it's like 1%, or
Whoa.
maybe even less than 1% can just dunk. So imagine like what percentage can like East Bay double under, like any you're at windmill, like all those things. So I just think it really puts into perspective of like, yeah, man. I mean, I think a lot of people they just don't try.
Mm.
Essentially, it's kind of like what we're getting at. Like I think a lot of people are a lot more capable of what they are, and they don't really know it. But
That's why you
yeah,
should
I
let
think
us coach you.
exactly. Um, cool. Yeah, I think that's a good place to stop it. What you think?
I think it's good.